My dream Dubai vacation with my son and his wife turned into a nightmare. They abandoned me, penniless, 9,000 miles from home, after maxing out my credit card and taking everything. I didn't cry then. They thought they'd won, but they only started a war. This is just the beginning of my story. Like, share, and let me know where you're listening from. The desert sun cast long, shimmering shadows across the pool deck of the Burj Al Arab. At 66, I had never imagined I would see such splendor, let alone experience it with my son, Brandon, and his beautiful wife, Serena. For days, we had lived like royalty, surrounded by gold and crystal, impeccable service, and views that stole your breath away. It felt, for the first time in a very long time, like a real family vacation. My heart swelled with a warmth I hadn't felt since Brandon was a small boy, a sense of belonging and peace. Brandon, ever the doting son on this trip, insisted on paying for everything. "Mom, you sacrificed so much for me," he'd said, his hand resting gently on mine during one of our lavish dinners. "After Dad left, you worked tirelessly. This is the least I can do. Think of it as belated repayment for all those years." Serena had chimed in with agreement, her smile radiant. I had demurred, of course, but he was persistent, and the ease with which he handled the bills made me feel proud. My son was successful, thoughtful, and generous. What more could a mother ask for? That morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a wave of dizziness. The opulent room, usually a source of comfort, spun around me. Serena, ever attentive, noticed my discomfort as they prepared to leave for a shopping excursion. "Mom, you look a little pale," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "Why don't you stay here? Relax by the pool. We can pick up some souvenirs for you later." It sounded like a perfect plan. A few hours of quiet by the water, away from the bustling souks, would do me good. As they headed for the door, Serena paused. "Oh, Mom, could I borrow your card for a bit, just in case we see something special for you? Brandon's wallet is a little tight today after all the excursions." My credit card, an emergency reserve I rarely touched, slipped easily from my purse into her outstretched hand. "Of course, dear," I'd smiled, waving them off, already looking forward to a peaceful morning. A few hours later, the dizziness had subsided, replaced by a refreshing clarity. The poolside rest had worked wonders. Feeling rejuvenated and eager to share tales of their shopping spree, I made my way to the grand lobby, intending to surprise them. Approaching the front desk, I asked for Brandon and Serena. The clerk, a young woman with a polite, practiced smile, tapped at her keyboard. Her smile wavered slightly. "Ma'am, Mr. and Mrs. Davies checked out this morning," she stated, her voice even. My mind stumbled. "Checked out? But no, that can't be right. We were supposed to leave tomorrow." The clerk consulted her screen again. "Our records show they informed us you had already departed earlier, indicating you were unwell and wished to fly home independently." My stomach lurched. Departed? Flew home? Without me? A cold dread began to seep into my bones, a premonition that something was terribly, terribly wrong. "No," I whispered, the single word barely audible. "That's not true. I'm still here." Her expression softened with pity, a look that instantly intensified my growing terror. "Ma'am, there's also a matter of the outstanding balance. Mr. Davies charged nearly $8,000 to your credit card, which appears to have been declined. It seems to have reached its maximum limit." The words hit me like physical blows. $8,000? My emergency card, maxed out? "And," she continued, her voice lower now, "they arranged for all your luggage to be sent with them." The world tilted. My luggage, my passport, my phone, my wallet, everything. All gone. I was standing in the opulent lobby of one of the world's most luxurious hotels, 9,000 miles from my modest home, penniless, identificationless, utterly alone. The air grew thin and my breath hitched in my throat. This couldn't be happening. This was a nightmare, a cruel, elaborate prank. But the clerk's kind, sad eyes told me it was horrifyingly real. A manager, a distinguished gentleman in a crisp suit, was called. He listened patiently as I stammered out my disbelief, the rising panic making my voice tremble. He was sympathetic, even offered a glass of water, but his words were firm. "Mrs. Davies, I am truly sorry for your predicament. However, without a valid form of identification or a working credit card, we cannot accommodate you. Our policy is clear. He suggested I contact my embassy, but without a phone, in my mind a chaotic mess, the thought felt impossibly distant. He arranged for a taxi to take me to the nearest police station, but even as I sat in the plush leather seat, my mind was blank, save for the echoing void where my future should have been. Soon, I found myself standing on an unfamiliar street corner, the taxi driver having left me outside the station after I confessed I had no money to pay him. The sheer audacity of it all was beginning to sink in. I was adrift in a city built on dreams and impossible luxury, yet I felt utterly invisible, a ghost among the gleaming skyscrapers and designer boutiques. The hum of expensive cars, the laughter of tourists, the vibrant life of Dubai swirled around me, a stark and cruel contrast to the desolate landscape within my soul. Every glittering facade, every extravagant display mocked my sudden, crushing destitution. Memories, sharp and painful, sliced through the fog of shock. Brandon, a boy of 7, clutching my hand as his father walked out the door for the last time. The endless shifts, the skipped meals, the worn-out clothes. Also, Brandon could have a better life, a chance I never had. I'd put him through college, sacrificed my own retirement savings to help him start his business. His words echoed, "This is the least I can do, belated repayment." The irony was a bitter, metallic taste in my mouth. He wasn't repaying me, he was bleeding me dry, then abandoning me. As dusk settled, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, the city's glamour began to feel menacing. I wandered aimlessly, my feet aching, my stomach growling. Eventually, I collapsed onto a public bench, the cool metal seeping into my exhausted body. The bright lights of Dubai blurred into a dazzling, indifferent haze. The cold night air was unforgiving. Sleep wouldn't come. My mind replayed fragments. Brandon's innocent childhood smile, his excited chatter about school, his arms around me when after a scraped knee. Where had I gone wrong? How could the boy I loved, the son I raised, become this monster? I shivered, not just from the cold, but from the chilling realization that the person I thought I knew was a stranger, a predator. By the time the first rays of dawn painted the sky, I was a hollow shell. My body ached, my throat was raw from thirst, and my eyes felt gritty with unshed tears. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a darkened shop window. A disheveled, wild-eyed woman whose face was etched with a despair so profound, I barely recognized her as Eleanor. The morning sun, though beautiful, offered little comfort. I had found my way to what looked like a bus stop, though I had no idea which bus to take or where it might lead. My body slumped on the bench, every muscle screaming in protest. My once neat dress was rumpled, my hair disheveled, and my face felt raw and tear-stained. I was a spectacle, an anomaly in this pristine city, a living testament to sudden, inexplicable ruin. I stared blankly at the street, vaguely aware of people hurrying by, their faces a blur. Then a shadow fell over me. I slowly lifted my head, my eyes adjusting to the figure before me. He was tall, elegantly dressed in what looked like an expensive, traditional thobe, and his silver hair was impeccably groomed. His eyes, though, were what truly caught my attention. They were a deep, comforting brown, filled with a kindness that seemed almost out of place amidst my despair. He spoke, his voice a gentle baritone, with a soft, melodic accent. "Excuse me, madam, but are you all right? You look distressed." The simple question, spoken with such genuine concern, was the crack in my carefully constructed wall. All the fear, the anger, the profound sense of betrayal I had been holding back burst forth. Tears streamed down my face, hot and uncontrollable. I choked out the story, disjointed and fragmented at first, about Brandon, about Serena, about the credit card, the luggage, the abandonment. I didn't care that he was a stranger. I just needed to tell someone, anyone, to make sense of the senseless. He listened patiently, his gaze unwavering. His kind eyes grew darker, a furrow deepening between his brows. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, just absorbed my raw, broken words. I poured out my heart, the sting of Brandon's treachery like a fresh wound. "They just left me," I finished, my voice cracking. "Here, with nothing, 9,000 miles from home." A long moment of silence hung between us, broken only by the distant hum of traffic. He finally spoke, his voice softer than before. yet laced with a peculiar knowing resonance that startled me. It's always good to meet an old love again, Eleanor. My heart, already fragile, leaped into my throat. Eleanor? He knew my name? Who was this man? My mind raced, frantically searching through the blurred faces of my past. But there was nothing. No memory of this distinguished, silver-haired gentleman. Love? The word felt alien, painful in my current state. My bewilderment must have been plain on my face, for a soft, almost wistful smile touched his lips. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his eyes, though the underlying concern remained. "My name is Tariq," he said, drawing out the syllables. "Dr. Tariq Al-Hamad, though when we knew each other, I was just a medical student." The name Tariq, Dr. Tariq Al-Hamad. It hit me then, not with a gentle wave of recognition, but like a physical blow. A sudden rush of understanding that cleared the fog of my despair, if only for a moment. Tariq, the shy, brilliant young man from Syria, struggling to make ends meet while studying medicine at the university in Chicago 4 decades ago. The student who had worked tirelessly at the hospital where I was a nurse, often too proud to admit he was starving. The boy I had quietly made sure had extra sandwiches, coffee, even a warm sweater during those brutal Chicago winters. The one whose tuition I had secretly helped with from my meager savings when he thought he might have to drop out. "Tariq?" I breathed, the name feeling foreign on my tongue after so many years. But you were skinny, almost fragile, with glasses." I looked at him again, truly looked. The broad shoulders, the confident bearing, the expensive tailored clothes, the silver hair that framed a face matured by time but still undeniably kind. The slight tremor in my voice was a mix of shock and wonder. "My goodness, is that really you?" He nodded, his smile widening slightly. "Indeed, Eleanor. Time changes us all, does it not? After I finished my studies, I returned home, then eventually settled here in Dubai. Allah has blessed me immensely. I started with a small clinic, then built hospitals. I have invested in various businesses. It has been quite a journey." His gaze softened again, returning to my current state. "But enough about me. You, my dear Eleanor, look as though you have been through a terrible ordeal. What truly happened? What brought you to my city in such distress?" The question pulled me back to the grim reality. Tariq, a living, breathing testament to the good I had once tried to do, was now witness to the profound evil that had befallen me. The dam burst again, and this time the story flowed with painful clarity. I recounted every detail, from the false promise of the dream vacation, Brandon's insistence on paying for everything to lull me into a false sense of security, Serena's feigned concern, the casual request for my credit card, the dizzy spell, and the heart-stopping revelation at the front desk. I spoke of Brandon's carefully constructed narrative to the hotel staff, how he had planned my abandonment, the theft of my passport, my phone, my very identity. As I spoke, his face transformed. The initial concern deepened into a profound sadness, then a cold, steely anger I had not seen before. His jaw tightened, his gentle eyes now burned with an intensity that was both terrifying and strangely reassuring. He listened, his hands clasped tightly together, his silence a powerful testament to his outrage. When I finally finished, breathless and emotionally drained, he remained silent for a long moment, the air thick with unspoken fury. Tariq's anger was palpable, a silent force emanating from him. He finally spoke, his voice low and laced with a controlled fury. To think that after all you did for him, after you worked 3 jobs, night and day, sacrificing everything to give him a future, this is how he repays you?" His words, steeped in a knowledge of my past that only he could possess, deepened the sting of betrayal. He remembered. He truly remembered the impossible years. A memory surfaced, sharp and vivid, from those darkest times after Brandon's father had left. My paycheck was late, and I was trying to stretch meager grocery money while hiding my worry from my son. Tariq, then a gaunt medical student, had approached me in the hospital cafeteria. "Eleanor," he'd said, his voice hesitant, "you look tired. Let me buy you a coffee." It was a simple gesture, but it had meant the world. a moment of unexpected kindness when I felt completely alone and overwhelmed. He'd seen past my brave face even then. He looked at me now, his gaze piercing. I knew then, even as a struggling student, that you were a woman of incredible strength and compassion. Your kindness to me, it saved me in more ways than you know. He paused, taking a breath, then continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Really, Eleanor, truly I was falling in love with you. The confession hung in the air, electrifying and utterly unexpected. My mind, already reeling from the day's events, struggled to process his words. Love? For me? 40 years ago? I was stunned, speechless. My cheeks flushed, a warmth spreading through me that was unfamiliar and unsettling. Tariq, I managed, my voice a shaky whisper. We were friends. You were just a boho, and I was a young mother trying to keep everything together. He held up a hand, silencing me gently. Perhaps, but my feelings were real then, as they are now in a different way. But we will speak of that later. First, you need food, you need rest, you need clean clothes. He looked around as if taking in the harsh reality of my situation on the public bench. You will come to my home. We will get you settled, and then I will arrange for your safe return to America. My pride, usually a formidable shield, was shattered. I was exhausted, filthy, and utterly dependent. To refuse his offer would be foolish, bordering on self-destructive. I nodded, a silent, humble acceptance. Thank you, Tariq, I murmured, the words feeling utterly inadequate. He rose then, and with a surprising tenderness offered me his hand. His touch was gentle, firm, and infused with a warmth I hadn't felt in what felt like decades. He helped me to my feet, steadying me as my legs, stiff from the cold night and emotional trauma, wobbled beneath me. The simple act of assistance, so uncomplicated and sincere, brought an unexpected prickle to my eyes. It had been so long since anyone had treated me with such delicate care. He led me to a waiting car, a sleek, dark vehicle that practically hummed with luxury. The interior was plush, the air conditioning a welcome relief from the desert heat. As the driver smoothly pulled away from the bus stop, blending into the flow of expensive traffic, the surrealness of my situation intensified. One moment, I was a discarded woman on a bench. The next, I was being chauffeured through the gleaming streets of Dubai by a man who had confessed to loving me 40 years ago. Tariq, sensing my quiet bewilderment, didn't press for conversation. Instead, he asked gentle questions about my life over the years. Did you ever marry again, Eleanor? He inquired softly, his gaze steady. I sighed a long, weary exhalation. No, I admitted. After Brandon's father left, it was just me and Brandon, his stability, his future. That was my priority. There was never really time, or the right person, I suppose. As I spoke, I caught a fleeting flicker across Tariq's face, a complex emotion I couldn't quite decipher, a mixture of understanding and something else, something almost like regret or perhaps relief. The drive was longer than I expected, taking us away from the city center into a quieter, more exclusive district. As we turned onto a private road, my jaw nearly dropped. Before us stood not a house, but an actual palace. Ornate gates, intricate carvings, vast sprawling gardens that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was breathtaking, overwhelming, and utterly beyond anything I could have ever imagined. As the car glided to a halt before the massive gilded doors, I turned to him, my voice barely a whisper. Tariq, I managed, my eyes wide with disbelief. What exactly do you do now? The question felt absurd, given the evidence before my eyes, but I had to ask. He looked at me, a gentle smile playing on his lips, a familiar glint in his kind eyes. I'm what you might call a sheikh, Eleanor, though the title means less than it used to. What matters is that I have the resource to help you, and after all these years, I believe it's my turn to return the kindness you showed me. His words were calm, humble, yet held the weight of immense power and generosity. The irony was not lost on me. The man I had helped as a struggling student was now a sheikh, and I, the woman who had helped him, was a pauper. My world had truly turned upside down. The bed in Tariq's palace was softer than any cloud I had ever imagined. The sheets were silk, the pillows plump and fragrant. After a long, luxurious shower, the first true moment of peace I'd had in days, I slipped into a soft, borrowed robe. The physical exhaustion began to recede, but my mind remained a whirlwind. Tariq's words echoed in the quiet, opulent room. I was falling in love with you. And then his explanation for his success, a sheikh, a man of immense wealth and influence. It was all so utterly unbelievable, like a story plucked from a dream. And yet, here I was, living it. Had fate, in its cruelest hour, somehow decided to rewind time, to bring me back to him? A soft knock at the door, and a young woman, dressed impeccably, entered with a silver tray. On it, a delicate teapot, two exquisite cups, and a plate of colorful pastries. Her smile was warm, unpracticed. "Madam," she said in perfect English, "Dr. Tariq requests your company in the garden when you are ready." She poured a cup of fragrant tea, the steam carrying an exotic, comforting scent. As I sipped the tea, my mind drifted back, nearly 40 years, to a Chicago hospital. I remembered Tariq, always serious, always studying, but with an underlying kindness that set him apart. He'd often linger after his shifts, asking me about my day, offering to help with small tasks, bringing me coffee. At the time, I'd seen it as friendship, as the simple gratitude of a respectful student. My life was a relentless juggle of nursing shifts, Brandon's needs, and the constant struggle to stay afloat after his father's desertion. Romance was a luxury I couldn't afford, a distraction I couldn't entertain. I was too busy just surviving. Any subtle signs of deeper affection from Tariq must have been completely lost on me, buried under the weight of my overwhelming responsibilities. He was kind, yes, but love? It simply wasn't on my radar. After I finished the tea and a few of the delicious pastries, I found a beautiful flowing dress laid out on the bed, along with soft undergarments. It was made of a light, breathable fabric in a calming shade of sapphire blue, perfectly tailored, as if it had been waiting for me. I dressed, feeling a profound transformation, not just in my appearance, but in my spirit. The crumpled, weary woman from the bus stop was gone, replaced by someone who, for the first time in a long while, felt a flicker of hope. I followed the maid's directions to the garden, a breathtaking expanse of lush greenery, vibrant flowers, and tranquil water features. Tariq stood by a fountain, his back to me, gazing at the reflections on the water. He turned as I approached, and his eyes, filled with warmth, swept over me. "Eleanor," he said, a genuine smile gracing his lips, "you look much better. Rested." I returned his smile, a real smile that reached my eyes. "I feel it, Tariq. Thank you. For everything." He gestured to a comfortable bench shaded by an olive tree, and we sat. The gentle murmur of the fountain filled the air. He leaned forward slightly, his expression earnest. "Eleanor, I wanted to tell you something I should have said a long time ago. When I left Chicago in 1980, I had nothing but my medical degree and a broken heart." My gaze met his, and a shiver ran down my spine. The confession was coming, the one from earlier, but now it felt different, more intense, weighted by the passage of time and the gravity of our reunion. "I was in love with you, Eleanor," he said, his voice soft but firm, leaving no room for doubt. "Completely, utterly in love. I had been from almost the moment we met. Your strength, your kindness, your unwavering dedication to Brandon, it captivated me. I knew then that you were the most extraordinary woman I had ever met." My breath hitched. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm against my ribs. "Tariq," I whispered, the shock evident in my voice. I had no idea. Why didn't you say anything?" He sighed, a deep, melancholic sound. "How could I, Eleanor? I was a foreign student, with no family in America, no real prospects beyond my degree. You were a single mother, working tirelessly, with a young son to protect. What could I offer you? A life of struggle, more burden?" He shook his head. "It would have been selfish. I wanted to tell you so many times, but the words always caught in my throat." A forgotten memory flickered, a late night at the hospital just before he disappeared. We had been talking, laughing quietly, and he had seemed on the verge of saying something important, his eyes dark and intense. "I remember one night," I said, my voice barely audible. "You almost did. We were talking, and He nodded. Yes, I was about to. I had rehearsed it 100 times in my head. I was going to tell you how I felt, but then your pager went off. A pediatric emergency. You looked at me, gave me that determined smile and said, "Duty calls," and you were gone. His gaze was distant for a moment, lost in the past. I knew then it wasn't the right time, or perhaps that I was just not the right man for you. Not in my circumstances. The next morning, he continued, his eyes returning to mine. I disappeared. I know it must have seemed cowardly, but I couldn't bring myself to say goodbye properly. I knew if I saw your face, I wouldn't be able to leave, and I had to leave. My family needed me. Your family? I prompted, still trying to piece together the puzzle of his past and present. Yes, my father owned several businesses back home, including a hospital in Damascus. I was his only son. It was my duty to return, to take over the family legacy. It was expected of me, and after everything, I couldn't deny them. It was a choice between love and duty, Eleanor, and duty won, though my heart remained with you. This incredible story is far from over. You won't believe what happens next. Make sure to keep watching, give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss a single part of my journey. I stared at Tariq, utterly speechless. His confession, his explanation, it was all too much to absorb. 40 years. 40 years he had carried this. I reached for his hand instinctively, and he reciprocated, his fingers warm around mine. He began tracing gentle circles on the back of my hand, his gaze unwavering. Yes, Eleanor, he confirmed, his voice soft. I thought about you every single day. I promised myself that one day I would be worthy enough, successful enough, to come back for you. Then came a revelation that stole my breath. When I started to build my first hospital, he continued, his eyes reflecting a deep, tender sincerity, I did it in your honor. I created a pediatric wing filled with light and warmth, and I named it Eleanor's Garden. I told everyone it was for my grandmother, but in my heart, it was always for you. A place where children, like Brandon once was, could find healing and hope, just as you brought hope to me. Tears, hot and unstoppable, welled in my eyes and spilled down my cheeks. This was not just devotion. It was an enduring, profound love that had transcended time and distance, quietly manifesting itself in the very fabric of his success. My heart ached, a sweet, painful ache, at the magnitude of his unspoken affection. He had built an empire, and a part of it, the most tender part, was named for me. He went on, his voice a gentle recounting of a life lived with a quiet longing. My family eventually arranged a marriage for me, as is our tradition. She was a good woman, kind and gentle. I tried, Eleanor. I truly did. But I couldn't give her my whole heart. It was still with you. It still belonged to you. He paused, a sad smile touching his lips. She eventually found someone who could love her completely. Someone who could offer her the whole of his heart, and she left me. I understood. It was only fair. A wave of sorrow washed over me, not just for his loss, but for the life we both could have had. After his wife left, Tariq had poured himself entirely into his work. From then on, he explained, I focused solely on my work, on building this empire. It became my purpose, a way to channel the energy of my unrequited love, to create something meaningful. And always in the back of my mind was the hope that one day I might find you again. He raised my hand to his lips, pressing a tender kiss to my skin. His eyes, when they met mine, were full of a raw, almost heartbreaking intensity. And now I discover, he declared, his voice thick with emotion, that the woman I never stopped loving has been struggling alone all these years, while her own son treats her like garbage. It breaks my heart, Eleanor. You deserve so much more than this. His words, so profound, so full of love and indignation on my behalf, overwhelmed me. It was too much. The shift from utter despair to this sudden, monumental declaration of love, from a man who now embodied wealth and power, was jarring. I pulled my hand gently away, my mind scrambling for a footing in this new, bewildering reality. Tariq, I began, my voice choked. I'm 6 years old. I'm not the woman you remember. My son hates me. I have nothing. Nothing to offer you. You're a sheikh, a man of power and influence. Look at me." He frowned, his expression firm, almost stern. "Eleanor, you have everything to offer. You have your heart, your strength, your boundless compassion. You raised a son who, despite his failings, was given every opportunity because of your selflessness. Those are qualities more valuable than any fortune. And age? It has only added grace and wisdom to your beauty. Do you truly think I care about your material possessions or your years when my heart has waited for you across decades?" His conviction was absolute, silencing my protests. I looked at him, truly looked at this man, no longer the shy student, but a powerful, noble figure whose love for me had apparently never faded. The revelation was staggering, humbling, and utterly terrifying in its potential. Just then his phone buzzed, a sharp, insistent sound that cut through the profound intimacy of our conversation. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting instantly from tender devotion to professional urgency. "I apologize, Eleanor," he said, rising. "It's the hospital. An urgent matter. I must take this." He walked a short distance away, his voice immediately dropping into a serious Arabic conversation. As I watched him, a powerful, successful man, managing his vast empire, I was left alone with my thoughts, in the breathtaking beauty of his garden. 40 years. 40 years I had poured every ounce of my energy, my love, my very being into Brandon, sacrificing my own happiness, my own future, convinced it was the only path. And all this time, across continents, a man had held me in his heart, built a legacy infused with my memory, and waited. The contrast was stark, devastating. One son's ultimate betrayal against another man's enduring, silent love. What had I done with my life? What opportunities had I blindly missed? Tariq returned about 20 minutes later, his expression a mix of concern and something akin to a grim satisfaction. He sat beside me, reaching for my hand once more. "My security team has located Brandon and Serena," he began, his voice low. "They are still in Dubai, at a less luxurious hotel downtown. It seems their own credit cards have also reached their limits, and they are struggling to afford flights home." A cold, hard satisfaction settled in my chest. So, their grand scheme had backfired. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. They thought they could simply take everything and vanish, leaving me stranded. But karma, it appeared, worked swiftly, even in Dubai. The irony was not lost on me. They were now in a predicament not entirely unlike my own, though with their own resources still available, however meager. Tariq continued, a slight lift in his brow. "And it seems Brandon has been busy. He has been trying to contact the American embassy, claiming you are missing. He's quite the manipulator, isn't he?" A bitter, humorless laugh escaped my lips. Missing, of course. The prodigal son, feigning concern for his missing mother, all part of his elaborate deceit. He was not just a thief, he was a master of emotional blackmail and public performance. The thought of him pretending to be distraught, putting on a show for official channels, filled me with a fresh surge of disgust. "My people can inform them that you are safe and sound if you wish," Tariq offered, his thumb gently stroking my knuckles. "Or we can let them worry a little longer. It's your choice, Eleanor." I considered this. The thought of him squirming, imagining the consequences of his actions, was tempting. Let them worry, I decided, a steely edge to my voice I hadn't realized I possessed. Let them feel a fraction of the fear and abandonment they inflicted on me. The next 3 days passed in a dreamlike haze. Tariq, true to his word, treated me like royalty. He introduced me to his world, a vast and impressive network of hospitals, thriving businesses, and charitable foundations. I met doctors, philanthropists, even students at the medical school he had founded. Everyone treated him with immense respect, almost reverence. He walked through life with quiet dignity, a man of power and influence, yet always humble, always kind. We dined in magnificent restaurants, visited ancient souks, and admired breathtaking architecture. But it was the quiet moments that truly resonated. Morning coffee in the garden, discussing books or memories. Evening strolls where he would simply hold my hand, his presence a comforting anchor. He listened intently, genuinely interested in my thoughts, my feelings, my past. He saw me, truly saw me, not as a helpless old woman, but as Eleanor, the woman he had loved. The loneliness that had become a constant companion for so many years began to recede, replaced by a warmth I hadn't known I craved. On the third evening, as the desert sky blazed with the hues of sunset, we sat in a secluded part of the garden, the air fragrant with jasmine. Tariq turned to me, his kind eyes serious, yet hopeful. He took both my hands in his. "Eleanor," he began, his voice a soft murmur, "I know this is sudden, and perhaps even foolish, given our history and your recent ordeal. But I cannot let you go again. Not now that I've found you." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Stay here. Stay in Dubai. Stay with me. Be my partner, my companion, my wife." He paused, his grip tightening gently on my hands. "My heart never truly left you, Eleanor. All these years, you were the silent constant, the dream that propelled me forward. I have built this life, and now I want to share it with you. I want to care for you, cherish you, make up for all the hardships you've endured. Give us a chance. Give yourself a chance at the happiness you always deserved." His words, passionate and sincere, brought fresh tears to my eyes. The idea, once unimaginable, now felt like a beacon of light in the darkness. To be loved, truly loved, by such a man after so many years of self-sacrifice and betrayal. It was an overwhelming thought, a dizzying possibility. I opened my mouth to answer, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. But before I could utter a single word, Tariq's phone rang, a sharp, intrusive sound that shattered the delicate intimacy of the moment. He glanced at the screen, and his expression hardened. He excused himself, stepping a few paces away to take the call. I watched him, my heart suspended, waiting for my chance to respond. When he returned, his face was grim, a barely contained fury smoldering in his eyes. "Eleanor," he said, his voice taut, "it seems Brandon's theatrics have escalated. He is at the American Embassy, not just reporting you missing, but claiming you have been kidnapped by terrorists." My breath caught in my throat. Kidnapped? By terrorists? The sheer audacity, the disgusting manipulation, was beyond anything I could have imagined. But it wasn't just that. "Furthermore," Tariq continued, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage, "he has set up a GoFundMe page online. He's appealing for donations to rescue you, claiming he needs funds for private investigators and safe passage. He has already raised over $15,000. $15,000. My own son, selling my fabricated abduction story for profit. The bottomless pit of his greed, his utter lack of conscience, made me see red. The pain of betrayal gave way to a cold, unwavering fury. He wasn't just a thief, he was a con artist, using his own mother's fabricated peril for financial gain. The choice was clear. The time for indecision was over. "Tariq," I said, my voice steady, imbued with the newfound resolve, "I have two things to say. First, I want to confront Brandon. I want to look him in the eye and make him pay for what he's done. And then after that, after I've dealt with him, I want to accept your proposal." Tariq's face lit up, a radiant smile transforming his features. He reached for me, pulling me gently into his arms. His lips met mine in a tender, heartfelt kiss that sent a warmth spreading through every fiber of my being. It was a kiss of promise, of enduring love, and in that moment I felt truly transformed, shedding the skin of the abandoned, insecure woman and embracing a future where I was worthy of such devotion. The sense of belonging, of being cherished, was utterly intoxicating. We spent the rest of the evening planning. Tariq, ever the strategist, insisted on a public meeting, arranged in a conference room at one of Dubai's most prestigious hotels, ensuring it would be recorded. His security team would be present, discreet but visible, a silent testament to his influence and my protection. There would be no room for Brandon's theatrics or Serena's manipulative games. This confrontation would be on my terms, with every advantage firmly in my corner. The next morning, I woke with a sense of purpose. Tariq had arranged for a team of stylists to attend to me. I was pampered, my hair styled elegantly, my skin glowing from luxurious treatments, my makeup applied with a subtle touch that highlighted my features. A stunning designer dress, a vibrant emerald green that brought out the color of my eyes, was presented to me, along with exquisite real jewelry, diamonds that sparkled at my throat and ears. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I barely recognized, confident, poised, radiating a quiet strength that belied the trauma of the past few days. This was not the broken Eleanor. This was a woman reborn. We arrived at the hotel and were ushered into a spacious, impeccably appointed conference room. Tariq sat beside me, his presence a solid, comforting anchor. Two of his security personnel stood at strategic points, their watchful eyes missing nothing. A short while later, the doors opened, and Brandon and Serena walked in. Their jaws literally dropped. Their eyes, wide with shock, darted from my perfectly coiffed appearance to the opulent setting, then finally landed on Tariq, a powerful figure in his crisp thobe. The look on their faces was priceless, a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and dawning fear. They had expected a distraught, disheveled old woman. Instead, they found a queen. Brandon recovered first, slipping instantly into his manipulative persona. "Mom, oh my God, Mom, are you all right?" he exclaimed, rushing towards me, his arms outstretched as if to embrace me. "We've been so worried. The embassy, the GoFundMe. We thought you were kidnapped." I held up a hand, stopping him dead in his tracks. My voice was calm, cool, devoid of any emotion that might give him leverage. "Don't pretend, Brandon. You know exactly what happened. You stole my credit card, maxed it out, and abandoned me 9,000 miles from home without a passport, phone, or money. You left me for dead." Serena, ever the tactician, stepped forward, her voice saccharine. "Eleanor, darling, it's just, you're an elderly person. Perhaps you're a little confused. We were just trying to help you. It was all a misunderstanding, really." Her smile was sickly sweet, a thin veil over her obvious panic. I rose slowly, deliberately, meeting her gaze with an unwavering stare. "Confused?" I scoffed, a cold edge in my voice. "I am thinking more clearly than I have in years, Serena. And what I see before me are two utterly despicable individuals. A thief and his accomplice, nothing more." Brandon's eyes narrowed, shifting from me to Tariq, trying to gauge the man's identity and power. "Mom, who is this man? Are you being held against your will? Is this some sort of cult?" His voice was laced with a desperate attempt to frame the situation in his favor, to paint me as a victim of someone else. Tariq chuckled, a low, dangerous sound that sent a shiver down my spine, even though I knew it was not directed at me. He rose to his full height, exuding an aura of quiet authority. "My name," he stated, his voice calm but firm, "is Sheikh Tariq Al-Hamad, and Mrs. Davies," he placed a possessive hand gently on my shoulder, "is not being held against her will. She is my honored guest." The color drained from Brandon and Serena's faces. Sheikh, the word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken wealth and power. Their eyes widened, comprehending the gravity of his title, the sheer magnitude of the man standing beside me. Serena's fake concern vanished, replaced by a naked, predatory greed that flashed in her eyes. The wheels in her head were visibly turning, no doubt calculating new opportunities. "There is no opportunity here for either of you," I stated, my voice cutting through their unspoken thoughts. "The only opportunity here is for you to listen." I took a deep breath, the words I had longed to say forming on my tongue. "Brandon, you are not my son anymore. You're nothing to me. All those years, all my sacrifices, all my love. You threw it away for a few $1,000s in a fleeting moment of luxury. You chose greed over family, over the very woman who gave you life." Brandon stammered, his bravado crumbling. "Mom, no, please, you don't understand. We were just—" "I understand perfectly," I interrupted, cutting him off mid-sentence. "I understand that you are a selfish, manipulative, and heartless excuse for a human being." I then turned my gaze to Serena, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "And as for you, Serena, you are not to come near me or my property ever again, and stay far away from my husband-to-be." The declaration hung in the air, shocking them both into stunned silence. My husband-to-be. It was out there, a promise, a reality. The look on their faces was priceless, a mixture of absolute horror, dawning realization of their monumental mistake, and envy. Their scheme had not only failed, but had inadvertently led me to a future they could only dream of. Brandon, reeling from my declaration, sputtered, "Mom, you can't mean that. This has all been so traumatizing for us. We were worried sick about you." I scoffed, a bitter sound. Traumatizing? For you? What about the trauma of being left for dead? The trauma of realizing the son I sacrificed everything for cares only about money? No, Brandon, my real family isn't you. It never was. Tariq, with a smooth, calm demeanor that belied the tension in the room, then interjected, "Speaking of money, Brandon, I believe you have raised a considerable sum claiming your mother was kidnapped. 15,000, was it not? The American embassy, as well as the local authorities, would be very interested in the specifics of that fundraiser." Brandon visibly flinched. The mask of concern completely slipped, revealing the terrified, calculating man beneath. He opened his mouth, but before he could concoct another lie, I cut him off, my voice sharp and clear. "That's not even the half of it, Tariq. Weeks before this trip, they opened 3 new credit cards in my name. Identity theft. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was planned, a calculated setup. The revelation hit Brandon like a physical blow. Serena gasped, clutching his arm, her eyes wide with unmasked fear. The air thickened with their panic. My heart felt a cold, hard satisfaction. The truth, in all its ugly detail, was finally out. Brandon crumpled, collapsing onto a chair. His face was ashen. "Mom, please," he whimpered. We needed money for the down payment on the house, Serena's student loans. We thought you wouldn't mind. It's your retirement fund, after all. It was just sitting there." The audacity, the entitlement, still simmered beneath his feigned remorse. He actually believed he was entitled to my life savings, the fruit of decades of my labor. I looked at him, truly seeing him for the first time, stripped of all pretense. The boy I had loved, the man I had raised, was gone, replaced by a greedy stranger. "My retirement fund?" I echoed, a sardonic smile touching my lips. "Oh, Brandon, you truly have no idea, do you? You planned this elaborate scheme, but you failed to consider one crucial detail. 6 months ago, I changed my will. Every single penny of my savings, every asset I own, has been left to charity. You, Brandon, and you, Serena, will receive absolutely nothing." The silence that followed was deafening. Brandon's face went from pale to a ghastly white. Serena let out a small, choked sob. Their carefully constructed future, built on my stolen resources, had just crumbled around them. They had gambled everything on my unsuspecting nature, and they had lost. Spectacularly. "Mom, please," Brandon cried, desperation raw in his voice, scrambling to his feet. "A second chance. We can fix this. I'm your son." Serena, tears now streaming down her face, joined in the pleas. "Eleanor, please, don't do this." I held up my hand again, stopping their pathetic display. "A second chance?" My voice was unwavering. "How many second chances did I give you over the years, Brandon? How many times did I bail you out, forgive your recklessness, believe your empty promises? You took advantage of every single one. No, there are no more chances, not from me." Tariq then stepped forward, his voice firm, leaving no room for argument. "This meeting is concluded. Brandon, Serena, you have 2 options. You can either resolve the outstanding credit card balances immediately and shut down that fraudulent GoFundMe page, or we will proceed with charges for identity theft and fraud. I assure you, my connections extend beyond Dubai. The choice is yours." He gestured toward the door with a dismissive wave. "Now leave." Brandon and Serena, utterly defeated, stumbled out of the conference room, their grand scheme shattered into a million pieces. As the door closed behind them, a profound sense of lightness washed over me. It was as if a crushing weight, one I hadn't even realized I was carrying for decades, had finally been lifted. I could breathe again. I felt free, relieved, and a deep, unwavering sense of rightness settled in my soul. 6 months later, I stood on the opulent balcony of our magnificent home, gazing out at the glittering skyline of Dubai. The desert breeze was soft and warm against my skin. I was Mrs. Eleanor Al-Hamad, happily married to Tariq, the man who had loved me across continents and decades. My heart was full, overflowing with a joy I had never thought possible. Brandon and Serena, I learned through Tariq's channels, had faced the consequences of their actions. The GoFundMe money was seized, and with my testimony and Tariq's influence, they faced identity theft charges in the U.S. Their house went into foreclosure. Brandon, disgraced, dropped out of medical school, and both ended up working menial retail jobs. Their dreams of luxury and entitlement utterly shattered. They had nothing left but the bitter taste of their own greed. "Tariq, my love," I said, turning from the view to my husband, who had just joined me on the balcony, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "I've been thinking about my retirement fund. Now that it's no longer tied up in legal battles, I've decided what I want to do with it." He kissed my temple. "Anything you wish, my dearest, it is yours." "I want to invest it in your new women's health clinic," I declared, my voice firm with purpose. "Not as an employee, but as a partner. I want to help women who, like I once was, feel lost, unseen, and in need of a second chance. I want to define myself on my own terms in a way that truly matters." 3 years later, the Eleanor Al-Hamad Women's Health Center thrived, a beacon of hope and healing in Dubai. It was a place where women from all walks of life found care, support, and empowerment. I was not just a name on a building. I was an active participant, setting my own schedule, contributing my experiences and insights. I had found my true calling, a purpose far greater than I ever imagined, far more fulfilling than simply being a mother. On my 67th birthday, Tariq surprised me. At a small, intimate ceremony at the clinic, surrounded by our staff and friends, he unveiled a beautiful brass plaque. It read, "Dedicated to women everywhere who found the courage to start over." As I looked at the plaque, then at Tariq, his eyes shining with love, a profound sense of peace settled over me. My darkest moment, my greatest betrayal, had indeed become the doorway to my greatest joy. I had lost a son, but I had gained a husband, a purpose, and a happiness I had unknowingly starved myself of for far too long. I had finally chosen myself, and in doing so, I had truly begun to live.